What's up, Lucky Tackle Box family? Travis Moran here, coming at you from another random person's living room that I rented on Airbnb because I'm back down here in the desert filming for this video. I couldn't be more excited for what I'm about to show you guys. So, from one perfect stranger's living room to yours, this is another episode of Living Room to Lake, where we're gonna break down the baits that came in this month's Lucky Tackle Box. Guys, I couldn't be more excited about starting 2020 out with a bang. We've been making a lot of improvements to this box to really get the whole educational platform up and going, and I think you guys are really gonna like this. I know that a lot of boxes just throw baits in there and tell you it's at a great discount, but we wanted to get more of a full experience to you guys out of this box, so you not only get the baits, but you get different tools to actually use them, and then also educational videos like this so you have more confidence in going out in the water and fishing them. So part of educating is putting things into a theme, understanding what's going on out there during different times of year, understanding how to read the water. And so this month for January, a lot of people not out fishing, a lot of people are stuck indoors, cold weather, the snow, and so we thought this was a perfect time to focus on the basics, back to the basics. That's our theme for this month. Check out the magazine that came in here. My buddy writes this, does a great job. The other thing is we introduced our Lucky Extras in this box as well. We're gonna start throwing other features in this box so that you can have the fuller, more complete experience. So we're gonna be going over the Bass XL box right now. And when selecting baits that are the basics, that are the true, tried and true baits that you definitely need in your tackle box throughout the year to catch fish anywhere in the country, it is very difficult. There's a lot of them. So not only did we pick the ones that are the classics, the definite go-to baits, but I also made sure that we had a wide variety. So when you go out in the water, you can fish the different water columns, right? You gotta be able to fish that top, mid, or bottom, depending on where those bass are feeding, but then also be able to fish the different structure and cover that those fish are going to be relating to or deep inside. So that's where we came up with these baits so that you could have the basic tools to go out in any body of water and catch some more fish. I'm excited. Hopefully you are as well. So let's dive right into this box. All right, so we're gonna do this next part a little bit different than you might be used to following along with on the previous Living Room to Lake episodes. But I want you guys to have your baits out and really learn about how these different lures and things come together and how you can use them out in your local waters like we talked about. So I'm gonna do this in two groups. The first group is gonna be the soft plastics and all the hooks and weights and things that go with those soft plastics so you can understand how they fit together. And then we'll do all the hard baits in the next group. So first off, let's talk about the two soft plastics. First of all, the Gambler Ace, which is a little soft stick bait, and then the Matrix Shad creature style bait. One of the most common body types for creature style baits. A lot of little flanges going on, a lot of little action, where the stick bait has a nice little subtle action, darting, little erratic motion that you can add to it. A lot of cool things you can get with those baits, and then a lot of different ways you can rig them to fish different situations. So let's show, first of all, the hooks. We've got the Mustad, those little 3-aught wide gap hooks there, some swivels and some beads in there. And then we have also the Wacky rig kits. Got that little Wacky rig hook, O-ring, and a little nail weight or they have a screw weight. This is their new little weight that they've got, which I really like. And then some tungsten weights, some bullet weights in a 3/16 ounce and a 1/4 ounce. We'll talk about tungsten and how that can help you guys out a lot. And then this weird looking red skirt. No, this was not an accident. I had them put this in there because this is gonna be a cool little trick I'm gonna teach you guys, especially for you guys that are fishing from the shore or fishing from kayaks where you have a limited amount of area you can cover. So you've got to really be able to do things that the other guys in that area aren't doing, make little subtle differences, and this will be a good little trick that I think you guys are gonna like. So let's start breaking these different baits down here. First with the Wacky rig kit. You see that you've got 3 items that go with this. The first is the hook. You're basically just going to tie that hook Palomar knot onto your line, 8 to 10 pound on some kind of spinning rod. These are kind of real finesse tactics that you can do. And you're going to then take that little black O-ring and you're going to slide it over the worm or over your little creature bait, that matrix shad. Now, if you just try to slide it on, you're gonna end up breaking this bait and stuff. You actually have to take some saliva or something and wet that worm and then slide it up to basically that smooth part, about halfway up that worm. And then you take your hook and you're gonna, what I call skin hook it. You're gonna come underneath the little ring right there, barely grab just a tiny bit of that skin and then come back through there, so it's gonna hang down. Then you're gonna take your little nail weight or that little screw and you're gonna screw it into the flat side of this bait. Right now, you have created what's called the nail rig. So when you cast this bait out, you let it sink down to the bottom and the weighted part will hit nose down, and you're gonna shake it on semi-slack line as you slowly bring in that slack, and this bait is gonna hop along the bottom with that tail up, wagging around, and it looked like it's something searching around looking for food. A lot of little action to it, really generates strikes. You can do the same thing for your matrix shad, the little, this little creature style bait. Once again, stick that little head nail weight right in the head of this thing. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to thread that little O-ring up the body right here, but it can be done. And now you have a little nail weighted creature bait as well. A little bit more action, a little bit more legs and movement going on with that. Now, you're gonna notice when, you maybe already noticed, that there is a little, another little ring on this O-ring. Now that is for wacky rigging in a different way. This was a wacky rig, nail weighted rig. So when we skin hooked, we wanted to make sure that that hook was going upwards towards the tail, so that when you are hopping this thing along the bottom, you're pulling up and that weight is pulling it back down as you give it slack, so it's hopping, hopping, hopping. Now, if you want to fish it weightless, and we just lost the hook here, take out that weight, keep the O-ring where it is, but now, instead of skin hooking the worm, you just put that hook through that little hole, and now you have it wacky rigged, okay? So that way you toss it around little pilings from a dock or the edges of like tules and things, this bait will fall down real slowly, and both sides of the, it will fall down real evenly with both sides of this little worm shaking, having this little subtle shake or shimmy on the way down, and the fish love it. A very, very good finesse technique. Now, if you're fishing a little deeper water, if you want that bait sinking a little faster but still want that similar action, you can take this nail weight and actually screw it in right into the middle of this worm and screw it all the way down. And now you have a little bit more weight in the middle of this bait, which will cause this the worm to fall faster and actually make these little legs kick even more on the way down. This isn't something you can really do with the creature bait, but once again, that's the other option. So there's two ways to rig this wacky rig and two ways to actually rig this O-ring. Make sure you're rigging it the right way when you're trying to use it for different techniques. Like I said, rigging it right in the middle and letting it fall with both legs, that is good for vertical structure. When you nail weight it, you can cast it out and you can work it down points, or you can work it along flats and things like that, so you can actually make longer casts and work this bait a little bit faster with that, where the wacky rig is more for fishing specific targets. All right, so now let's look into our little wide gap worm hooks here. And when we rig this up, we're going to first take our line and we're going to put one of our tungsten weights here. Guys, tungsten weights, the reason, tungstens are a lot more expensive than lead. And the reason being is they're a lot more dense, which they transfer feeling through that. So you can actually, when this bait or when this hook hits any kind of rocks or ticks against anything down there, it transfers that up your line and you can actually feel out the bottom a whole lot better. That's why I wanted to make sure these got in the box so you guys can feel the difference between lead and tungsten. So line goes on, then you you have the option of putting one of those beads on your line. So you put the weight on there, then you put the bead, then you tie a Palomar knot with your hook, and you now have a Texas rig, or they used to call brass and glass. You know, this isn't really brass, but this is great for a little bit murkier water. When you got a little dingier water, a creature bait is great in that dingy water because it's got all the little flanges. Really, it's displacing a lot of water so the fish can key into it. But then when you have that glass bead, when you cast into some tules or around some docks and you shake that bait, you don't have to be moving it much, just shaking it, it makes a click, 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 click. And that sounds like a little crawdad or some kind of little thing down there, and it really draws the bass in, especially when the bite's tough. Having that little bead added on there is a great way to get some more strikes. You just rig that up, Texas rig, just like you normally would, that weedless little Texas rig, and you are all set to go. You can do the same thing for your stick bait here. You would rig it up just the same way. Come back through, and you now have it weedless, okay? Now this one, you don't have to rig it with a bullet weight. You can actually just rig it weightless, and you could toss it up in the shallows and twitch it, and let it pause just like a soft jerk bait. And this bait will dart all over the place, and you let it sink back down. Twitch, twitch, it'll dart up there, sink back down. Or you can add the bullet weights and the glass and fish it just like you would this little creature bait. Once again, all these setups are weedless, so you're able to throw this around grass, really pull it through brush piles and things like that, so you can really get down to where those fish are hanging out deep down in that structure. Lastly is this little swivel that's in here. As you always need more swivels, so you can add this into your box, but the reason I put it in this month's box is a little feature, and I actually only need half that swivel. So you take some pliers and you actually can pull that swivel, you can unhook that and get that little swivel out. And what you do is, before you rig up your Texas rigged stick bait here, you slide the swivel onto your line so it's free swing on the line, and then you tie your hook on. Then you rig up half your bait onto the top of the hook, and you stick the other side of the swivel. You thread the other side of the swivel down onto the hook, and then up to the head there, the eye. Rig the rest of the worm weedless, and this swivel is actually going to help hold that bait on there. So you're going to prolong the life of your lure. You're not going to lose as many of them. They're not going to slide down and get worn out as easily. This is a cool little trick. Once, if you're catching a lot of fish on this, you unfortunately go through a lot of them. This is a way that you're not going to tear through them as fast. I learned this from Roland Martin. I thought this was an excellent trick that he taught, and I wanted to share it with you guys, but make sure, this is not my own trick. I learned this from Roland Martin, one of the legends himself. So we've got some different ways to rig this. We've got some different areas that we can throw these things in, but then that's where the skirt material now can come into play. What you can do is just pull one of these little strands out, and you can have some fun with this. This is kind of like, this is like an Etsy episode. So you take one of the hooks and you can push it through, and I'm just going to show you. The skirt's actually just for putting through these different soft plastics. So what I do is then I will kind of latch that skirt around right below the barb. So when I pull through, the barb will actually catch that skirt and yank it back into the worm. And I can keep pulling it. And then what I will do is I will cut that skirt. So I've got now, and I'll cut them even shorter, so now that I've got little phalanges hanging out. And you can decorate these things and add little features how you want. But the idea is that you're giving just a little bit more movement. You're giving a little bit more for that fish to come in and take a look at. And when you're fishing heavily pressured water, if you're just fishing a small area that a lot of people have fished, doing little things like this can really improve your chances. They can get you another fish or two while you're out there. And I put red in because this time of the year, as we go into spring, fish really love the color red. So if you can toss a little red, little red whiskers to your different baits, it can give you that much more of an advantage to catching some more fish. So just 2 different baits right here, but a few different hooks and really a lot of different styles or a lot of different variations that you can make with this to really fish the conditions that you're gonna go out and fish, whether you're out at your local pond, whether you're fishing from the kayak, whatever it is, you're gonna be able to use one of these different rigs to actually go catch some fish out there. So that's it for the soft plastics and the hooks. Now let's jump into the hard baits. All right, so for the hard baits, we've got the Live Target Popping Frog. This is obviously to cover the top water column right here. Then we've got Raw Outdoors Lipless Crankbait. That is perfect for fishing that mid-depth to a bottom depth. You know, I like to bounce these off the bottom. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then lastly, we've got the Dobyns D-Blade Beast. This is, Dobyns claims this is the #1 spinnerbait on the market. It's got great quality components. I really like this blade. Very excited for you guys to get to fish this as well. And this can fish that mid to bottom depths as well. What I really like about spinnerbaits is you can bounce it off tree limbs and different cover down on the ground. Really comes through all that stuff very effectively. And then lastly, one of our lucky extras, we put in 12-pound monofilament line so that you guys can fish all these hard baits with this line. Giving you guys, if you notice, there's a theme that you guys get more in your box this month, more to actually go. You don't have to go by the tackle shop and pick up some weights and hooks before you can actually use the new baits. We've given you the tools to be able to get your box, get in your car, and go out to that local waterway and catch more fish, right? So let's first talk about topwater baits. Guys, topwater baits are so important as the weather starts really warming up from basically right now when this video comes out, through into the summer, the water is just gonna be getting warmer and warmer. And these fish are gonna really start orienting themselves and really moving shallow. And so when they're doing that, they're really starting to feed more up, looking shallow. And when you have shallow little running baits, or if you have topwater stuff, the bass love that and will really start hitting more topwaters. Now, a popping bait like this is one of the most versatile topwater baits there is because you can pop it, and it'll splash water with this little cupped head, but then it will, but then you can pause it. So you get the fish's attention. Psh, psh, looks like something's kind of struggling on the surface. Then you let it sit, just like we fish jerk baits. A lot like you give it the jerk pause. That's how this popper is. You give it that pause, that's when they'll hit it. You can also try to give it little quick twitches that'll make that bait walk and kind of pop at the same time, look like something scurrying along the surface. They'll hit that as well. I like the lighter underbelly. Most bait fish, most little critters all have a lighter underbelly, and that's what this bait has as well. Real nice finish, nice paint job to it. I like the feather hooks and everything. You're gonna catch fish with this. This is gonna be one of your all-stars throughout the year in your tackle box. Next up is the Lipless Crankbait. Guys, if you know me, if you watch a lot of my videos, Lipless crankbaits are my favorite bait in the entire world to throw because of how versatile they are. You can cover so much of the water column. That's where you're gonna keep hearing me talk about the water columns, guys. When you're out fishing, you wanna figure out where the fish are actually feeding. They don't have to be in that water column, but where the fish are actually feeding. Sometimes they're deep looking up and wanting to feed up at the top. Sometimes they're waiting to feed down, so you gotta know which way they're looking to feed, and that's why you gotta have a wide variety of lures to offer them something until you figure out what they want. So the Lipless crankbait, you can just cast this out with a slow retrieve. It's gonna have a nice little wobble. It's gonna rattle. It's gonna draw in fish in clear water and in murky water because you can hear a lot of noise. It has a little vibration that they can really hone into. But where you can actually add some other features into it is by adding different retrieves. You can let this bait sink all the way to the bottom and rip it off the bottom, let it sink, rip it off the bottom, let it sink, and you'd be amazed. You gotta be watching your line when you let it sink because that's when they're gonna hit it. Pow! Your line will jump and you got a fish on there. The other thing is you can over grass. If you've got, let's say, about 4 feet of water and you've got grass growing up about a foot off the bottom, you can let this bait slow down until it's ticking down right on the top of that grass. So as it's coming across the grass and catching up, you can just give a little twitch with that rod as you're reeling. Once you feel it load up, you yank it and it'll pull free of that grass. This is one of the most effective ways to get fish to strike. They love when that bait pops out and they will hammer it. You'll be reeling, you'll pull, and then wham, you'll feel that fish hit because it is just instantaneous. They love when that thing pops out. Lastly is the spinner bait. Guys, a spinner bait is so versatile as well. And you're gonna see, I'm saying that for all these lures, and that was the point of this Back to the Basics box, was to have versatile lures that you can fish throughout the year and throughout the country to have success. I know I can take this box anywhere and catch fish. Right now, or in the middle of summer, it doesn't matter. Maybe not in Minnesota or some of these northern states that have 2 feet of ice. I get it, bear with me guys, but when there are bass to be caught, this is what you guys can do it with one of these baits. The spinner bait, it mimics bait fish. You've got these little blades that throw off the flash, and then you've got this little skirt down here that kind of gives the fish something to key in on, and it can be very effective. And what's so great about it is it mimics the bait fish these bass are looking for, but it also, you can work it down in the areas these fish are hanging out in. You can bang it off little tree limbs, you can slow roll it along rocks, and it's gonna have that nice little flash. That skirt's gonna be making little flare-ups and stuff and really draw in those strikes. You can also add a little trailer to the hook here. So whether that's a little small swim bait or it's just some little white legs or something like that, kicking out to give it a little bit more action, to give those fish a little bit more to key in on. Like I said, Dobbins claims this is the best spinnerbait on the market. It's got stainless steel blades. It's got a little soft plastic little hook keeper right here. It's made with a mustad hook. It's got hand-laid skirts. It is a great bait. I've had fun throwing it. I think you guys are as well. And once again, these 3 baits can all be thrown on this 12-pound mono. I tried to grab something that really could be ideal for all these. I would throw most of these on a bait casting reel. Aside from this popping frog, you could throw this on either a bait casting or a spinning rod. I know that a lot of you guys like using predominantly spinning rods, so I try to make sure there's always some things for you guys to be throwing in that. But that is the box. That is the Bass. That's the Bass XL box for the January Back to the Basics theme. Now, the next thing is the tournament box. I had us do something completely different for the tournament box. Previously, we would just add more lures, more different baits into the box for a bigger box. Then we called it the tournament box. But because we're really trying to focus on education, I want you guys to learn the baits that we're putting in there. There's a reason I put these baits together and put them in a box, and I want you guys to be able to have success off that. So instead of just putting more random baits in the tournament box this month, we doubled up. So we gave different colors of the baits that were already in the box. Because truly, if you're trying to learn different techniques, once you learn how to throw something, you also want to have different options, different colors of that bait, so that if all of a sudden the water's a little dingier that day, or you're in a different area of the lake where the water's dingier, you can switch colors up to see if that's going to get the fish biting a little bit more. The other thing is that we will be throwing in, if there's different sizes, we may not just throw in another color, we might throw a different size so you can play with downsizing and things. That's going to be a better way for you guys to understand and really learn these new techniques more effectively than us just throwing more random baits in there. So I do want to hear your feedback on that. That was something that I really pushed on Lucky Tackle Box. I thought that was the way this has to be done to really make this a complete educational platform. So please let me know your guys' thoughts. And then for all you guys, all the Lucky Tackle Box subscribers, I want to hear what you guys think of the January Back to the Basics box. Since I came back to Lucky Tackle Box, this has been the month that we've really been working on. So this could be a big step in the direction that we're trying to take this company, and I hope this is just the first of many big steps that we're going to take, and I hope that you like it. I hope that this helps you guys catch more fish. I definitely want to hear about it in the comments. Make sure you guys let me know about your fishing adventures, what you like the most about this month's box, if you like the new Lucky Extra features, whatever it is, I want to hear about it in the comments. I make sure to read all those and respond as well. Anyway, guys, I'm Travis Moran with Lucky Tackle Box. You've just watched another episode of Living Room to Lake, and I will catch you out on the water.